So now that it's officially over, let's talk about the finale and honestly the entirety of The Last of Us Season 2. These are going to be my raw, untampered emotions, feelings, thoughts, and opinions on this season and this last episode. As I've said in other videos, The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite game of all time. I mean, I met Troy Baker, who plays Joel. This game and this story means so much to me, so doing the second season is really challenging. We've talked about the other episodes. Now that we've seen everything, let's go ahead and get right into it. Before we do that, we're on the road to 3,000 subs, and actually we're less than 100 away, so if you're new to this channel, I would love to have you here. Seriously, leave your comments with your thoughts because I read every single one, and I most likely will respond. All right, let's get into this.
I'm Spider-Man.
So the first thing that I really want to talk about is the beginning of the episode where we have that scene where Dina is comforting Ellie after what she just did to Nora. Originally in the game, Ellie comes back from killing Nora and she's completely bruised, cut up because she's killed so many people on her hunt to find Nora and therefore also Abby. The game makes you take out so many WLF soldiers, scars, so many other people that Ellie is very, very brutal and much more cutthroat than she is in this show. So I was wondering how they were going to play this off. It looked like they were going to flip it at the beginning and have Ellie care for Dina while she was pregnant, but they actually ended up doing the scene where Dina washes her off. Now, I've seen some different opinions about this scene online, and I have to say that I do agree with some of them to an extent. Without knowing the source material exists, you look at this scene, it's pretty good. But I am doing my due diligence here as someone who loves the second game, and I can't help but compare it to it. I mean, obviously they're two separate things, and I can love both of them separately, but if I had to pick one, I think I prefer the way the game does it. Ellie is just so much more brutal, and this moment of her after killing Nora is her kind of breaking point of no return. She's willing to do anything that it takes to get revenge on Abby. But you see the look in Ellie's eyes that she's really lost herself. That line that Joel says in the song Future Days, if I was ever to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. You see that in that scene. Whereas here, they kind of try to give Ellie a harder edge because she hasn't necessarily taken out as many WLF soldiers. I think she kills like 2 to 3 people, and one of them was even on accident in this entire episode, or I guess like season. Whereas again, in the game, she takes out hundreds. They give her this kind of edgy line where we get to see her actually kill Nora, which doesn't happen in the game. You know, the whole thing with horror where, you know, you don't see it, so maybe your mind is imagining things that are even worse. We actually get to see it here in the show, which is different, and Ellie is like, oh, this was actually kind of easy, kind of being a little psycho. And I think that's okay here because Ellie has not had the opportunity to take out WLF soldiers like you do in the game because it's a video game. They have to verbalize it here. I just feel like the nuance in this scene is kind of missing. Not bad, just not my favorite in comparison with the game. One thing that I will say 100% is the acting from Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced is phenomenal in this episode. I think one of the biggest concerns that a lot of us had going into season 2 is how are they going to age up Ellie? She's 19 in the game when she was like 14 or 13 in the first game. And I have to give credit where credit's due. She does look a lot older in these last episodes. The next thing I want to talk about is the whole mission with Jesse. In the game, you're going along with Jesse and you realize you have to take Dina back. Ellie has to contemplate whether they've done enough damage already and they can head back. Jesse is that guiding light that's kind of telling her to do the right thing, save Dina, let's go back to Jackson and reevaluate the situation. In doing so, he kind of becomes that sacrifice. Here, it's kind of the same thing, but Jesse's a little bit more aggressive towards Ellie and letting her know what she's doing is wrong. And this is another thing that I think they were having to switch from action to words here because we don't see Ellie going too far physically in all of these episodes where we do in the game. So Jesse has to verbalize all of these things that Ellie is going on this journey of revenge. She's going too far. She's risking things. People are pregnant now. We have other things to think about besides ourselves. Again, with the acting, I think the guy who plays Jesse was a perfect cast. Next, we have a scene with the WLF and Isaac, and I'm not really sure I understand why this scene was even included. I think we're going to probably get answers for that in season 3, but including it in the finale just kind of felt out of place along with another scene that we'll talk about a little bit later. We see the war between the Seraphites and the WLF growing immensely, and we know that the WLF characters are going to have much more time with storyline and character development in a 3rd season when we focus on Abby, but it just felt weird explaining all of this stuff right now when we're in the finale of Ellie's journey so far. Going back to Jesse and Ellie, I did like the conversation that they had about having a child and how excited Jesse was, and it really does play back symbolically to the relationship between Ellie and Joel as well as just father-son, father-daughter relationships that we've seen so far. It's foreshadowing. I mean, I'm not going to spoil everything that happens in the things that we haven't seen yet, but we're going to be remembering these times. times. I know it's the finale and I know it's a TV show, so all of that stuff from the game, all the combat encounters, all of the different situations that you're in have to be condensed in a certain amount of time to keep the narrative going, and I feel like this episode maybe suffered a little bit from that because everything felt so squeezed. However, with that being said, I like how Ellie got to see Isaac and all of the WLF boats going to the Scar Island to fight them. That's not something we see from this perspective in the game, and I think it was well done here because it lets us know what's going on simultaneously with Ellie's story as well as Abby's story. What Abby is doing right now in terms of the position and time and place in the story, I'm not going to spoil that for you, but there's a reason, again, that they're showing these scenes. Now, for me personally, here's where we get a little bit iffy. Ellie is on her way to the aquarium to confront Abby and take her out because that's her plan, but she actually ends up on the Scar Island after getting washed off her boat. She gets taken by the scars and strung up and she's about to die, and I thought they were going to do something really cool here. But no, the horns go off, the scars leave her, and she just gets to leave, and then she goes to the aquarium. They could have completely cut out this entire section of Ellie going to the Scar Island because it honestly felt pointless. I know what they're doing here. There's a scene that happens with Abby's storyline with these same characters in the third season, or I mean, I guess the later half of the second game that we're going to see, and I just don't feel like you had to tease them because they're not too big of a deal, but it was, I guess, kind of cool to see the connection. I just thought we would have rather maybe seen something else. As I was saying, I thought they were going to do something really cool here, and I thought we were going to see Mel and Owen save Ellie from these scars, take her in, and then watch Ellie kill Mel and Owen. Having it be that parallel where Abby is rescued by Joel, but Abby still kills him. I was honestly pretty upset they didn't do that because I thought it was a perfect way to kind of mirror the stories. That doesn't happen in the game. Ellie just goes straight to the aquarium, but I thought they were going to be doing something new with the Scar Island scene, but no, they just introduce the scars one more time, how brutal they are, but they don't even do anything. They leave her alive, and then she goes to the aquarium. I love the set design of the aquarium. It looks just like it did in the game. I love the shot of the shark because, well, that's going to play a part in the third season with Abby's storyline. Really excited for that. And then they meet Owen and Mel. Knowing the second game very well, I know what conversation Owen and Mel should be or could be having right here when Ellie walks in, and it's a little different. There are rumors, and I believe one of the cast members, the guy who plays Owen, said that the storyline for Mel is going to be much different than it is in the game. I really don't know how to feel about that because I think it's very important to have Mel be the character that she is, but let's wait and see. So Ellie confronts Owen and Mel and uses the trick that Joel used to use where she's going to mark a spot on the map where Abby is, and if they don't tell the same thing, they're both gonna die. Ellie's using the more brutal tactics that she learned from Joel. This did not happen in the game. That actually happens way earlier, and Ellie's a little bit less brutal here. I personally feel like this point in time is the most brutal we should be seeing Ellie up until her realization that Mel's pregnant. Only in the show, she purposefully kills Owen and then accidentally hits Mel with a stray bullet, causing her to die. That's completely different in the game. In the game, Mel dies on purpose at the hands of Ellie, but she doesn't know that she's pregnant until after she's killed her. I do think the newly added scene of Mel trying to get the baby out with Ellie's help was really well done and very sad and depressing. It wasn't in the original content, but I do think this is just due to all of the changes that they're making possibly with Mel and Owen's characters. Obviously, we won't know until we get season 3, which God knows how long that's going to be before it comes out, but I hope they start filming it now because I need it. But after this scene, I feel like Ellie does have a massive amount of regret for what she's done because she killed a pregnant woman who wasn't even armed. Maybe this is their way of getting to the brutality of Ellie's choices, but she's also kind of regretting them at the same time, whereas in the game, she regrets what she did to Mel, but she's still willing to push forward. She just seems a little bit less hell-bent on revenge, and we don't get a lot of time for her to be brutal enough to understand that she's going to stop at nothing to get what she wants. She heads back to the theater. Abby gets to live. They're going to all go home. The sacrifice is too big, but then Abby shows up, shoots Jesse, and then the episode cuts to black. Now that's what happens, but we're going to stop and talk about it real quick because I do have a lot of feelings on it. Yes, this is almost exactly what happens in the game. They purposefully leave some things out that I'm assuming they're going to be waiting for season 3 for, but yes, Jesse does die in the original source material as well as the show. The scene of Jesse and Ellie talking right before, I believe, was brand new, and I really liked that, but it also just goes to show that Abby is someone who is just like Ellie. We spend time with Jesse, we love Jesse because we know him, and when we see him walk out and die that quickly, it's a shock to us because we love him so much. But we have Abby, on the other hand, who doesn't know who this guy is, and she doesn't care because that's not why she's there. Her people, her friends are now dead who Ellie didn't care about, and it's a very vicious cycle of violence that has a lot of parallels. Ellie and Abby are very much different sides of a same coin. I would have loved it if the episode would have just ended with Abby pointing the gun at Ellie saying, "I let you live and you wasted it." Because in the game, that's where it cuts off, and then you start spending time with Abby for the next like 12 hours. We obviously see that here in the show at the very end with the massive army in the football stadium and where Abby's been living with Seattle day one, setting up the next season, showing us the trip that Abby goes on while Ellie goes on her journey. But they switch it up a little bit here because Abby actually shoots and there's Ellie saying no, 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 and then it cuts to black with a gunshot. It felt very cheap to me personally. I just think it was an editing thing personally, and I just was not a fan of it, to be completely honest with you guys. But also, who is shooting at the very end? If they go the game route, it would make a lot of sense, but having Abby point the gun at Ellie and then we hear the gunshot, that doesn't make sense to me. Just not really sure why they went with that editing choice, the no, 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 cut to black with a gunshot. I thought that was a little cliche. But yeah, overall, I think that scene was fine. I still just love the original source material a little bit more. I'm honestly so excited for season 3 just because of how Caitlin Denver is kind of portraying Abby at this point. She's not nearly as buff as I feel like a lot of people would like, and personally, I think that's part of her character. I think she's so muscular in the game because she's so hell-bent on revenge and finding Joel. She wants to be ready for anything, so she bulks up, and she's not as bulk here, but she does still give that attitude and that determination to get things done here. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you watch the show, I think you understand what I'm saying. Caitlin Denver is a powerhouse of an actress, and she steals every scene that she's in with this show, so I can't wait to see her take front and center stage with the next season. And for all of you Abby haters out there, I know she did something terrible, but guess what? Joel did too, and that's kind of the point of the story. So I'm saying it right now, come back to this video when the 3rd season comes out and you end up loving Abby. I told you so. So yeah, I'm an Abby apologist 100%. Overall, season 2 was honestly not what I expected. Look, I'm just a massive fan of the game and definitely a fan of the show. Of course, I would have loved a one-to-one recreation with all of the elements, but that's just not realistic. What should be realistic is not having just 6 or 7 episodes in a whole season. I mean, I remember back in the day with shows like Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, whatever it is, there were shows that had like 13 to 20 episodes a season and they would release every single year. My problem is now I don't know when the 3rd season is going to start filming, and I don't know when that's going to come out. I mean, look at Stranger Things. It's been years since the last season and those kids are all grown up. I do think Last of Us maybe could benefit a little bit from that because of things that happen in the 2nd game with characters aging a little bit more. But this is such a massive story. I feel like 15 episodes would have been amazing. We would have had time to really see Ellie dive into her horrible tendencies of violence and revenge, but we really just don't get that here. Again, she kills like 2 to 3 people max in this season. They verbalize the anger a lot more, and I think that's cool, and I think the dialogue is great, especially with the newer characters like Gale and Eugene's backstory. I thought that was really well done, but I do think I'm missing out a little bit on the depth of the revenge. I think the last episode with Joel's flashbacks was personally my favorite of the entire season because of the recontextualization of Joel's past, the directing from Neil Druckmann, the writing from Haley. I just thought it was really well done, and honestly would love to see them just take control over season 3. Not saying Craig or anybody involved with the show is not up to the task, because clearly they killed it with season 1, and I think they did a fantastic job with season 2. I just think there's some elements that make part 2 so special that are maybe missing a little bit from here, but again, we haven't seen the story fleshed out completely. We haven't seen Abby's story yet. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, of course, there's going to be things that they pull from the game, but there could be new stuff too. The Eugene stuff from the 2nd season was not in the game. We also have hints towards things that happen with Abby's story. We have the scar showing up and tying Ellie up. That's something we're going to revisit with Abby's story. We have the aquarium. That's definitely tying back. We also have the surgical bed that somebody was clearly laying on covered in blood that Ellie walks into when she first reaches the aquarium. I know who was on that bed, and I can't wait to see these characters. But overall, I just don't know how to quantify my feelings on this because there's things that I love they changed, and there's things that I really wish they didn't change. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's still kind of the same exact story, just things are told in a different order and things are done in different ways, but the roots of the story are still there. I just think the game maybe amps it up a little bit more and is more intense than the show is. If you guys love season 2, let me know. If you hated season 2, let me know. Be respectful in the comments. I would love to know all of your thoughts. Please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all very, very soon.